politics, a subject that is loved and hated by many. It's like a love-hate relationship. Why? Because it's complicated. And this complexity comes with genuine democracies, and with them, politicians. Politicians are people who come and ask you for votes in exchange for electoral promises. They come to promise things such as roads, less taxes, hospitals, improved healthcare, walls. Speaking of walls, didn't someone say a few years ago something about a wall? How's that going? Many electoral promises lead to disappointment because politicians make too many promises. But what would a democracy look like without people campaigning and promising change? They would be called dictatorships. I'd like to talk a bit about democracy, and I'll start with a fact. Did you know that more than half of the world today is democratic? Did you also know that a lot of people take it for granted? How? I'll tell you how. It's that thing when you hear, "I don't care about politics." Imagine someone charismatic, funny and smart, who you vote for from the bottom of your heart. Slowly but steadily, he comes and takes away your rights, such as the right to vote. Thanks to Sacha Baron Cohen and the dictator, here's a small video.
Let's now look back at the wonderful events of the past year. After Wadia's first free elections, President Prime Minister Admiral General Aladdin won 98.8% of the vote.
Also, there's this scene from Rick and Morty, a world-renowned series created by Dan Harmon, that perfectly illustrates what I want to show you.
You were saying, Garment District Rick?
We were saying, President Morty, that we don't care who sits in that seat. A Rick, a Morty, a goddamn Jerry, doesn't matter. We've been running the Citadel since before the council, and you'll find that we're still running it now.
Does he really speak for everyone here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I think it's important to be clear. Raise your hand if he speaks for you.
Is that enough off the top?
Don't know. Is it?
Yes, goddamn, yes. It's great.
Good.
I'd like to remind you that during the Cold War, between 1945 and 1990, most of Europe was not democratic. We had half of Europe who was a dictatorship. Can you imagine Spain, Greece, Poland, the Czech Republic as dictatorships? According to Freedom House, a world-renowned research institute, 84 countries are free, 64 countries are partly free, and 51 countries are not free. So, you see, around 150 countries have the necessary freedoms to be considered a democracy. Examples of freedom indicators include the electoral process, political pluralism and participation, functioning of government, freedom of expression and belief, associational and organizational rights, rule of law, and individual rights. So, what is a parliament? It's that fancy building in your capital city. Nah, kidding. It's not just that. It's the most fundamental institution in a country. And together with the judicial and executive branches of the government, it forms the three pillars on which a truly democratic society is built. Every country in the world has a parliament, even those that are not democracies. But generally, the parliament is elected by the people, with a few notable exceptions, such as the House of Lords in the United Kingdom. But we're not going to get into that right now. The term parliament comes from the French word
parler.
Dodge the bullet there. The word means to talk or to discuss, because that's what members of parliament usually do. They talk and talk and talk, and occasionally yell.
Order!
In order for them to do that without fear of political prosecution, they have a thing called parliamentary immunity. This immunity is like a shield, a constitutional shield that helps them not to be prosecuted when expressing their views. The members of parliament have to focus on their constituents and on the laws that they are drafting. Also, did you ever hear about the word senator and wondered what it means? The word senator comes from the old Latin word senex, which means old man. In some countries, senators are seen as more prestigious than their lower house counterparts. But not every country in the world has senators, and let me explain this. There are two types of parliaments. Unicameral, which means that there's just one legislative chamber. Examples include Hungary, Bulgaria, Ukraine, Turkey, Sweden, Norway, Finland, Denmark, New Zealand, South Korea, and I can go on for a while. Bicameral, in which there are two legislative chambers. the upper chamber and the lower chamber. Usually the upper legislative body is called the Senate. In some countries it's different. In Germany, the upper house is called Bundesrat, which literally means Federal Council, and in the UK we have the House of Lords. The lower house can have various names, such as House of Commons in the United Kingdom, House of Representatives in the USA, Assemblée Nationale in France, or Lok Sabha in India. It's worth noting that in most bicameral systems, the upper house is not as important as the lower house. The lower house has far more power because it's usually directly elected by the people. Psst. Psst. Mr. Senator, upper house, Mr. Lord.
What?
Did you get the bill?
Yeah, I did.
And what did you think?
I didn't think you care. It's not really well done. Article 5 needs some changing. Point A and B. I can tell you more. And I'll tell you more now. You really need to be more careful.
I don't care. Thanks anyway. Your opinion really doesn't matter. I was just being polite. So usually, members of parliament serve 4 years. This depends on the country. But for example, in the United States, senators serve 6 years and representatives serve 2 years. For example, you've probably heard about Bernie Sanders, right? Bernie Sanders? He's served quite a lot, 29 years in total. 16 years as a representative and 13 years as a senator. Now this is nowhere near the tenure of John Dingell, who was a representative for 59 years. In the United Kingdom, Dennis Skinner was an MP for 49 years until 2019. Take a look at him.
At Oxford, I didn't receive a proper answer then. Maybe Dodgy Dave will answer it now. And by the way,
Order!
That was some nice yelling, wasn't it? The United Kingdom and France, two of the greatest democracies in the world, elect their parliaments in a very similar way, but different. Let's start with the British. Their parliament has 650 seats. Every one of those seats represents a geographical constituency in which people vote. British members of parliament get elected in one round of voting. Whoever gets the most votes wins. And this is called first past the post. This is an example of a tight constituency fight where the SNP, the Scottish National Party, won by 2 votes. As you can see, the UK Liberal Democrats are a party that wins a lot of votes, but because of the electoral system, that doesn't turn into seats. In 2019, they had 3.7 million votes and only 11 seats won out of 650. The second party in that election, the Labour Party, had 202 seats for 10.2 million votes. The French have the same system as the British, but there's 2 rounds and not 1. Just so you can get a picture, here's an image with all 577 single-member constituencies in France. Now let me show you a concrete example from the south of France. Basically, to be elected in the first round, a candidate is required to secure an absolute majority of votes cast. If that doesn't happen, the second round of voting ensues, where one of the candidates needs to have more votes than the other, meaning a plurality. As you can see here, the first round was a close call, but in the second round, the winner had a comfortable majority of 54.5%. Members of Parliament can also be called the Right Honourable. These titles are common in the former colonies of the British Empire, as well as the Commonwealth of Nations, countries such as Canada, New Zealand, or even Kenya. Sometimes, these honourable gentlemen are not the most honourable.
Питання до СБУ. Чому вони їздять по Москвах і досі не в тюрмі? Це недобитки Януковича, які $500 мільярда.
They should not behave like that, but it's really fun to watch, right? That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can see our videos every time we post them. You can also find us on our social media and on our website. See you next time!